Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here in Missoula. Brandon, thanks very much for that kind introduction. Vinita Gupta, who is the head of the Civil Rights Division, could not be here today, and she sends her regrets, and I am her substitute, and I hope I can measure up to her energy. I know many of you know her and her energy, and her depth of understanding. I want to thank President Engstrom, and I have gotten to know you quite well over the last several years. You are a consequential leader in this area. I want to thank you for your unwavering commitment to the people of Montana, to the students of the University of Montana, and your historic leadership that you've demonstrated over the last several years, modifying the culture at the university as well as in the local community. It has been significant. You joined with other community leaders here, Mayor John Ingen, Police Chief Mike Brady, Chief Marty Ludeman of the University of Montana Police Department, along with the County Attorney Kirsten Pabst, to alter the manner in which things, the way sexual assault is being addressed. And I also believe that University Counsel Lucy France has played a tremendous role in bringing the university along to the point that it is today. The changes that have been made will be long-term. There are systematic changes, and they will protect and ensure the safety for generations to come of the people of Missoula. And Dean Kyrgyz and the law school, I want to thank you for hosting the Browning Symposium. It does have a rich history. Addressing issues of national importance, and the issue of sexual assault on college campuses is one of national importance. Currently, there are at least 200 other colleges and universities that are being investigated for compliance, as well as other matters dealing with sexual assault. These investigations are being conducted by the Department of Justice, along with the Department of Education. In 2014, President Obama set up a White House task force to examine this issue, and since our involvement from the department side back in 2012, the University of Montana has made great progress and has become the standard followed by other educational institutions that face this very difficult issue. Judge Browning is a Montana guy. He grew up in Belt, and Belt, Montana, for you who are not from here, Belt, Montana has a population probably 800 or 900 people on a good day, and that might be at a rodeo. He went to public school. He found his way to the University of Montana. He came here and became the first editor of the Montana Law Review. He spent his entire life, except for a very brief period of a couple of years, in public service. He started out serving during World War II in the military. Started out as a private, wound up as a first lieutenant, and he was in the Pacific Theater. He eventually found his way into the antitrust division in the Department of Justice and was in Washington, D.C. This is a picture that hangs in the Department of Justice. It's in the Attorney General's conference advisory, the Attorney General's Advisory Committee's conference room. Chief Judge Earl Warren asked Judge Browning to be the United States Clerk of Court, Supreme Court Clerk of Court, which he was. And in 1961, Judge Browning held the Bible when Jack Kennedy was sworn in by Chief Judge Earl Warren as President of the United States. He was actually the last Supreme Court clerk to hold the Bible. And then, of course, he went on to work in the circuit and has a great history there. Anyway, I That picture I see every time I am in D.C. and I'm in the AGAC conference room. It's there. He also was the first director of the Executive Office of United States Attorneys. He stood up that program, and that's an office within Main Justice that helps U.S. attorneys work through various issues as well as budget. I also want to thank Professor Johnstone and also Caitlin Williams and Brandon Shannon for putting this together. Last evening I had a chance to meet many of the individuals who are going to be on panels today, and they are subject matter experts, and I believe that my IQ went up a couple of points just being in the same room with them, and I feel very fortunate for that. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be educational. I think that there are going to be many matters that are going to be discussed, and there are going to be answers that will be developed that will help the universities and colleges, the departments, move through this difficult area of sexual assault on college campuses. I've broken my comments into 5 different areas. It will be an overview of all of the panels, as you will see throughout the day. I thought first it would be appropriate to talk about the Department of Justice and the Department of Education's authority to do the work that we do on college campuses, and in particular here in Missoula. I think I will also talk about an overview of the Missoula investigation, all 4 aspects of our investigation. One was at the University of Montana, the other was the University of Montana Police Department, the Missoula Police Department, and then also the County Attorney's Office. The third area will be Title IX enforcement and how that implicates free speech. Also Title IX enforcement and the due process implications, and then also jurisdictional confusion between campuses and state authority. I want to leave time for questions at the end. I hope my comments aren't going to run too long. I think the first thing that we do as parents, when we send our kids off to school, whether it's when they go off to kindergarten, first grade, middle school, high school, or to college, we believe that it is the safest place that they can be. But unfortunately, it is not when we think about some of the horrific things that have occurred, whether it's Sandy Hook, Columbine. There are dangerous things that occur. But I'm going to hone in on sexual harassment and sexual violence. Too often, a student's experience in school and institutions are marred and impaired. With respect to sexual violence first, what we have is the best available research based on surveys of students suggests that nearly 20% of college women and roughly 6% of college men are victims of attempted or completed sexual assault. The rate for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender is estimated by some to be even higher. I think the general public believes and thinks that most sexual assaults occur by strangers. The fact is that 3 out of 4 rapes are committed by someone known to the victim. Sexual harassment is also present at schools, and this is a 2005 survey of college students between the ages of 18 to 24 found that about 2/3 of students experience some type of sexual harassment, and less than 10% of these students told a college or university employee about their experience. The reality of it is, campus sexual assault is a civil rights issue. What sexual assault does, it denies the students their right to live and learn in a safe educational environment, and it is a form of sex discrimination that is disproportionately perpetrated against women. The U.S. Department of Justice is committed to using all of the tools that are available in our arsenal to combat sexual harassment, including sexual assault. Well, our authorities include Title IV of the Civil Rights Act and also Title IX of the Title IV of the Civil Rights Act, and what that basically does, it prohibits discrimination on, among other things, the basis of sex in public schools and colleges. The next slide, please. In Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 as amended, prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex by recipients of federal funds. So that's the authority that allows us to do things that we do by the Department of Justice. These statutes protect all students. It covered colleges and universities, regardless of their sex or sexual orientation, from hostile educational environments created by sexual assault. What allows us to take a look at law enforcement, including a prosecutor's office, is Section 14141 of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 in the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act. That is a debated issue about 14141 if the authority extends to a prosecutor's office, but clearly it does to law enforcement. And what the division does, we take a look at how these matters are being handled across the continuum of law enforcement. From the time a sexual assault is reported, how a sexual assault is investigated, and then ultimately how is a sexual assault prosecuted. With respect to there's a long-standing definition of sexual harassment. If I have that, thank you. This is the unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature and can include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other nonverbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature, such as sexual assault or acts of sexual violence. Now, this definition has been in Title IX guidance for over 2 decades and across 3 administrations. A number of different acts fall into the category of sexual violence, and that would include rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, sexual abuse, and sexual coercion. The Supreme Court, Congress, and Departments of Education and Justice have long recognized that sexual harassment, including sexual violence of students, can create a hostile learning environment that schools must rectify to meet their obligation not to discriminate on the basis of sex. The core mission to educate any student, the core mission of any school to educate students necessarily includes ensuring that the students are safe to learn in classes in school facilities, on their campuses, and in all of their education programs and activities. And a school will violate Title IX and Title IV when sexual harassment is sufficiently serious to limit or deny a student's ability to participate in or benefit from a school's educational program or activity. That creates a hostile environment. And the school, upon actual or constructive notice, fails to take prompt and effective steps reasonably calculated to end the sexual harassment, eliminate the hostile environment, prevent its recurrence, and as appropriate, remedy its effects. In determining whether sexual harassment has created a hostile environment to which a school must respond, consistent with the Supreme Court decisions, Davis versus Monroe County Board of Education, the Department of Education, OCR, and DOJ consider the conduct in question from a subjective and objective perspective. The standards that our offices apply require that the conduct be evaluated from the perspective of a reasonable person in the alleged victim's position, considering all the circumstances. And if the schools fail to respond adequately to the harassment, including sexual violence, they may be forcing an affected student to attend schools in a sexually hostile environment. Such an environment deprives the student of equal opportunities of their peers. There was a survey that is part of the White House task force. It was reported out in January of 2016. Victims of sexual assault suffer physical and emotional trauma that can linger for years. 19% of female victims either dropped or considered dropping their classes. 7% changed where they lived. 31% said academic performance suffered. And 22% considered taking time off or dropping out of school. And interesting, and I think it's probably, I think the students are probably aware of it more so than somebody my age, that freshman female students face the greatest risk in the first few months of the academic year, August being the month where the highest sexual assaults are reported in college campuses. You know, over the time, what I've learned is the majority of rapes are committed by actually a small number of perpetrators. There are serial offenders. The age group can go as low as 13, 14, 15 years of age and proceed upwards. It is, I think, well documented and well known, certainly by many, many people, that sexual assault is an underreported crime. The reason that it is underreported are that the victim has fear of retaliation, and there is self-blaming that is involved in that. Statistically, only 2% of college students who suffer sexual assault while incapacitated report the crime. And only 13% of other college students who are rape survivors report the crime. And I think I would like to show a video, just a very brief video. It's only about 60 seconds. And this is what happened to a victim of a gang rape. 4 male students raped her. The system absolutely failed her across all aspects of it: the reporting, the investigation, and the prosecution. And it has, I think it describes the dark place a victim and a survivor of sexual assault finds herself. So if